Welcome, my amazing friends. Today, I will tell you a story that is not just powerful, it's life-changing. Heath Ledger's story is one that continues to echo in the hearts of millions, not only because of the brilliance of his performances, but because of the fleeting, fragile, and beautiful nature of his life. His journey is not simply about a boy from Perth who made it big in Hollywood. It's about an artist who dared to live authentically, who chased passion with reckless abandon, and who, even in his short time, left a mark so deep that the world can never forget him. Heath Andrew Ledger was born on April 4th, 1979, in Perth, Western Australia. He grew up in a relatively ordinary family. His mother, Sally, was a French teacher, and his father, Kim, was a race car driver and mining engineer. From the very beginning, Heath was restless, energetic, and curious about the world. As a child, he wasn't satisfied with living quietly. He was always exploring, creating, and performing. In school, he showed signs of a deep imagination, the kind of mind that would later allow him to transform into characters with haunting depth. But what really shaped him was not fame or fortune. It was the small, everyday moments. As a boy, Heath was introduced to acting when he played Peter Pan in a school production at the age of 10. Something about stepping on stage, something about escaping into another world, spoke to him in a way nothing else did. It wasn't just fun. It was a calling. The stage became a space where he could feel alive, where he could channel the energy that always bubbled inside him. Heath's teenage years weren't easy. He struggled with fitting in, with figuring out who he was supposed to be. But instead of conforming, he leaned into creativity. He joined drama classes, practiced dance, and began dreaming of a bigger stage beyond Perth. By the age of 16, he was so determined to pursue acting that he left school early, packed his bags, and set off on a journey that would change everything. It was a bold decision, a gamble. Many thought he was naive. But Heath had something few possess at that age: unshakable conviction. In 1997, at just 18, Heath landed his first big role in an Australian television series, Sweat. The show wasn't groundbreaking, but it gave him a taste of the screen. He wasn't content with just being another actor. He wanted to push boundaries to find something real. Soon after, he appeared in Home and Away, another Australian soap opera. But Heath didn't want to stay in that lane. He knew his journey had to go further. And then came the leap: Hollywood. In 1999, Heath was cast in 10 Things I Hate About You. At just 20 years old, he became a global sensation. His portrayal of Patrick Verona, charming, rebellious, vulnerable, made audiences fall in love instantly. His smile, his charisma, his raw energy electrified the screen. It would have been easy to stay in that space, to embrace the world of teenage heartthrob roles, to cash in on his looks and charm. But Heath didn't want that. He wanted to be more. Hollywood has a way of boxing people in, of taking a rising star and molding them into a product. But Heath refused to be a product. After 10 Things, he was flooded with offers: romantic comedies, mainstream blockbusters. He turned most of them down. His agents were frustrated, but Heath's vision was clear. He wanted to be remembered as an actor, not a celebrity. That choice defined him. Instead of chasing fame, he chased truth. He began taking roles that were complex, difficult, and risky. In The Patriot, 2000, he starred alongside Mel Gibson, showing he could hold his own next to one of Hollywood's biggest names. Then came A Knight's Tale, 2001, a film that allowed him to shine as a leading man. The movie was fun, energetic, and showcased his charisma, but Heath still felt he hadn't tapped into the depth he craved. He was searching for something darker, something deeper. That search led him to Monsters Ball, 2001, where he played Sonny, a troubled prison guard. In this role, he began to show his true range: broken, vulnerable, raw. Critics started to realize this wasn't just a pretty face. Heath was willing to risk everything to find the soul of a character. But the real turning point came in 2005 with Brokeback Mountain. Ong Lee's masterpiece demanded everything from its actors: honesty, courage, vulnerability. Heath took on the role of Ennis Del Mar, a Wyoming cowboy who falls in love with another man, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. At a time when Hollywood was still uncomfortable with queer stories, Heath chose authenticity over fear. His performance was devastatingly beautiful. Ennis was quiet, repressed, a man torn between desire and fear, between love and survival. Heath captured the subtlety of that struggle in a way that broke audiences' hearts. He didn't play Ennis with cliches or exaggeration. He lived inside him. Every glance, every hesitation, every silence spoke volumes. The film became a cultural milestone, and Heath's performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. More importantly, it cemented his reputation as one of the most fearless actors of his generation. He had arrived, not as a star, but as an artist. Off-screen, Heath's life was changing too. On the set of Brokeback Mountain, he met Michelle Williams. Their chemistry was immediate, and soon after they fell in love. Together they had a daughter, Matilda, who became the center of Heath's universe. Fatherhood brought out a new side of him, gentle, protective, deeply loving. Friends often said that when Heath was with Matilda, everything else faded away. He adored her with all his heart. But life wasn't without struggle. Heath wrestled with insomnia, with the pressures of fame, with the constant tug-of-war between creativity and expectation. He often stayed awake for nights on end, his mind racing. He once told an interviewer that his brain was always running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. To quiet it, he sometimes relied on sleeping pills. It was a dangerous coping mechanism, but at the time, it felt like the only escape. Then came the role that would define him forever. The Joker in The Dark Knight, 2008. When the casting was announced, fans were skeptical. Could the charming, handsome actor from 10 Things I Hate About You really become Gotham's most chaotic villain? But Heath saw something no one else did. He locked himself in a hotel room for weeks, filling notebooks with the Joker's thoughts, mannerisms, and twisted philosophy. He experimented with voices until he found the chilling sing-song tone that would haunt audiences. Heath gave everything to the role. His Joker was not just a villain, it was chaos incarnate, unpredictable, terrifying, magnetic. His performance was so intense that even his co-stars felt unsettled on set. Christian Bale, who played Batman, later admitted that Heath's commitment was unlike anything he had ever seen. The result was legendary. When The Dark Knight was released, critics and audiences were stunned. Heath's Joker wasn't just a character, it was a force of nature. He had transformed completely, disappearing into madness with terrifying precision. The performance earned him a posthumous Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. But tragically, Heath never lived to see the world's reaction. On January 22, 2008, Heath Ledger passed away in New York City at the age of 28. The news shocked the world. Fans, friends, and fellow actors mourned not just the loss of a great talent, but of a kind, humble, generous soul. Michelle Williams described the grief of losing him as unimaginable, and Matilda, his little girl, would grow up without her father. Heath's death was ruled an accidental overdose of prescription medications. It was a reminder of the silent battles many face, the pressures, the sleepless nights, the endless demands. And yet, Heath's legacy didn't end there. In the years since, his work has only grown in influence. Brokeback Mountain remains a landmark in cinema, and his Joker is considered one of the greatest performances in film history. But beyond the screen, Heath's life teaches us something deeper. That true artistry comes from authenticity, from risk, from daring to live fully even when it's hard. He lived only 28 years, but in that short time, he gave the world characters, emotions, and stories that will endure for generations. He proved that it's not about how long you live, but how deeply. Heath once said, "I feel like I'm wasting time if I repeat myself." That was his philosophy. Never to stand still, never to settle, always to push forward into the unknown. His story is a reminder to all of us to chase our passions, to embrace vulnerability, to take risks, and to love fiercely, to be unafraid of failure, because it is in failure and risk that we discover who we really are. Heath Ledger burned brightly, perhaps too briefly, but in that blaze, he illuminated the world. And though he is gone, his light will never fade. We'll meet again in the next story. Until then, live boldly, and speak with truth. Goodbye.